Well, good morning, all you new people. It's a glorious, sunshiny day driving through Saskatchewan. On the news, we're hearing about a heat dome, some sort of climate change thing. Climate something about the climate. I'm hoping you can hear me all right. Hopefully, I'm not too loud and I'm not breathing into the microphone too much. But look at that. That's glorious. Glorious. In about 15, well, maybe I could be wrong. I think we're just going to be passing towns rather than driving through any cities. In about 2 hours, I'll be going through Regina or Regina, however you prefer to say it. I woke up this morning at about 5:30 a.m. So that'd be 4:30 for the Saskatchewans. Actually, I was in Alberta when I woke up, just just about 5 minutes before the border. As the crow flies, there's a temple right at the border. It's a great place to stop. They don't like it when trucks stop there to do switches. I wouldn't like that either. It's There's another place in Saskatchewan called Tompkins. That's where Bison and other companies they do switches at the Esso station that's there. And you know these little gas stations they don't mind it when the big trucks come and stop, but I'm pretty sure that what they'd like is so I had to hit the brakes there because he's pulling in a little sooner than I would appreciate. And it's probably because that car's coming up. And they shouldn't be doing that to each other, forcing each other off the road like that. Anyways, so yeah, if you're gonna do switches and stops, I guess it'd be nice to pull in and grab a coffee. Pretty sure they would appreciate that. But times be hard on a trucker. Can't even afford a coffee nowadays. Do you know that the price of coffee has gone way up 100%? You used to be able to buy a cup of coffee for $1.25, even 75 cents. I remember that. Wasn't too long ago, 1997. Well, that's a long time ago for some of you. Some of you folks were just born. Anyways, well, in 1997, you could get a Tim Hortons for $1.25, I think. Anyways, it's $2.50 for a cup of coffee nowadays. $2 for a small or regular. So I guess the truckers they can't afford to buy coffee. I went into that Esso and I bought coffee from them because I stayed the night. And when I woke up to a bunch of trucks doing switches all around me. They blocked me in. I couldn't leave, so I may as well just go in and grab a coffee. And I went inside, and that poor little restaurant didn't have hardly anybody in it. And I looked at they got a cooler in there, and they got a restaurant and a menu. And you look inside of that cooler, and usually you can see condiments, um, butter or margarine, milk, cream. And they didn't have nothing in there. And I was thinking, this place is barely surviving. It's got selling gasoline. That's about it. Couldn't even be chipper. Might have been because of racism, but I could hear Tammy Wynette playing on the radio, and I said, "Well, you got some good country music playing here." I got no reaction, just stonewalled. Can't even be nice. Can't even make a conversation. Well, I guess they're just so miserable there. Nobody's buying coffee. Can't even buy coffee there. That's what it was like in Tompkins. But you go to that temple right on the border of Alberta, and they're friendly and cordial. Lots of people come in there, and that place is just thriving. The shelves are fully stocked. They got a restaurant there. It's restricted though, but you can get stuff. And they welcome truckers, but don't do switches there. I'll boot you out of there right quick. So it was nice to wake up to that this morning. And right here in Morse, there's an Esso station to our left. I stayed there. I asked for permission first. And the manager actually pointed out a precise location in which I could park. I stayed there the night. And that was nice. I went in there to get a coffee, and somebody was hogging the washroom in there, brushing their teeth. I don't know why truckers do that. Why don't you brush your teeth at your truck? Don't you have a plastic bin? You could spit on the ground. You got water, don't you? You didn't bring water on your long haul trip? Why didn't you bring water? I got a 5-gallon tank of water down there, and a 3-gallon tank of water. That lasts me 1 week. I do everything with that water. I wash, I cook, I make coffee, all kinds with that water. Brush my teeth. I don't know why these truckers don't do that. Some of these trucks, they got microwave ovens in them. They've got refrigerators. They've got these inverters. Oh man, it's practically a home away from home. Some of them got sinks. I watch OT Rookie on YouTube. He's got a sink in his truck. OT Rookie, that's the fella you want to see. Oh boy, he's got some good material there. It's funny too. Crack some jokes. OT Rookie. You don't want to forget that one. OT Rookie. I started watching him when he started out. On his first trip, he had a cracked windshield, and he was complaining because it cost him $500 to get it replaced, and he was just starting out. He's just a young kid back then. He's still a young man, but he's getting better. He's getting good, real good. I think it's been about 2 or 3 years now for him. He's making videos. I think he bought a couple of trucks. He's got a couple of drivers for him, driving for him. Pardon me. Chaplin in 24, Moose Jaw 106 kilometers away. Left curve coming up, maximum 110. I'm going 102. There's your farm or acreage. Probably a farm. They got a propane tank there. That's how they heat their home. They heat their home with the propane. Indiana Jack. I'm going through a bumpy road here. This is Shreveport Factor probably 4. It's not that bad. Shreveport Factor 4 for Indiana Jack, another YouTube trucker telling his stories. And he's funny too. He had a video there where somebody was taking a pee in a cup, and they rolled down their window and spilt it out the side of the truck. Indiana Jack, he didn't like that too much. He identified the truck and everything. Well, I guess it's too much trouble to climb out of your truck in the middle of the night and excrete liquid waste materials along your tires, or walk inside of the Flying J or Pilot. Well, sometimes you can't get back to sleep when you do all that. I'm not advocating for a piss cup. I'm just saying it happens. Well, that was before the pandemic, and now we got the pandemic, and what I've been experiencing is that sometimes they don't even let you use the washroom. They got signs right there telling you washrooms are unavailable due to COVID-19 pandemic. And what it is you got these truckers who don't know how to use a toilet, and they make a big mess, and they don't have anybody there that wants to clean that up every single time the washroom's being used, or at least once an hour. Run away, little gopher, run away. You don't want to be on the road. You'll get squished like a grape. So I just finished driving through no man's land. It took 2 hours, pretty much. There's a right after the Alberta-Saskatchewan border, when you're heading east, you're going to drive through pretty well. There's no place to stop for about 2 hours, 200 kilometers. In the old days, there wasn't anything for 3 or 4 hours between Regina and Medicine Hat. Oh, long drive. It just seemed like it took forever, especially when you're a young person. But you could see antelope and gazelles as far as the eye can see. They were spread out a little bit, but they were out there, and you don't see those anymore. I've seen 4 of them on this trip. Whatever they're called. Cantaloupes. Those magpies, they sure can fly, I'll tell you. They float in the air. So this is what you'd call no man's land. This is all you see for about 2.5 hours. We just went through swift currents, so it sort of broke up the monotony of no man's land. But then you just get right back into it after swift current. No man's land. Buffalo and indigenous people, the Aboriginal people, used to be all over this land. And then the white man came across the sea. He brought us pain and misery. We fought him hard, we fought him well. Out on the plains, we gave him hell. Yeah. My wife Joyce, she plays that song for Canadians on Canada Day. She understands. She grew up in the north end of Winnipeg. She knows. She had both eyes open the whole time. Well, I couldn't buy coffee from the temple because they weren't open at 4:30 in the morning. So I had to make my own. I was listening to the news this morning, and there's a lot of talk about that Canada Day tomorrow. People want to cancel it, and some people don't. And I noticed while I've been driving through Saskatchewan and Alberta, listening to the radio out here, it's very conservative radio. Well, conservatives listen to the same music we do. We listen to all kinds of country rap. I like classic country because it's just country. That's how country ought to be. But Luke Bryan and I forgot that other fella's name. They like to sing that country rap. It's rapping, but you hear banjos and fiddles in a rap song. I guess that's for those younger folks. Anyways, I was listening to one radio host, and he says he's just going to throw it out there. What do you think? Should we cancel Canada Day? I personally don't think we should because, Canada is like the rest of us, all of us individuals. We've got both good and bad in us. We all make mistakes. Are you going to write us all off just because of one little mistake? We've done more good than we've done any harm. So I'm just going to throw it out there. What do you think? Should we write off Canada Day? Yes or no? So you see what he did there. He told all of you people who want to cancel Canada, don't bother calling in. Because he's going to disagree with you anyways, and he's going to press that button and shut you up. But for all of you who call in supporting Canada Day, he's not going to push that button. He's going to let you explain away. Explain everything, why, just like he did. And he's going to support and reinforce that notion of his own opinion. So it's not really a poll that reflects the opinion of Saskatchewans. It just reflects his opinion. And I heard Premier Scott Moe do the same thing. I heard Aaron O'Toole do the same thing. Those are conservative fellas. In America, you'd call them Republicans, I guess. I have a feeling Canada is more Republican than Republicans, though. Like our liberals and our socialists they're not real liberals and socialists. They're 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 very conservative. They're just a different brand of conservative. But it was interesting listening to the radio, listening to the news. They can't even call this heat dome a heat dome. They don't want to call it that because it reflects a climate change. It reflects the science of climate change. It reflects something that they don't believe in. They believe God created this earth, the heavens and the earth, in 7 days. And on the seventh day, God rested because God saw that it was good. But Eve ruined it all. That's what they believe. And so they don't want to think about science. They don't want to go out and get a book and read it about science. They want to read the Bible instead. But they can't reconcile science and the Bible, although some scientists have done that. I guess there's just not enough scientists that do that. And so you could see that by listening to them, the kind of mindset that they want to promote amongst each other through media, literally biased media, like it's biased. They say things like the so-called heat dome, the so-called climate change, the alleged climate experiences. So that plants the seeds of doubt in the minds of people who are listening. Like, why? There's no climate change. I used to think that was snow over there. But it's like Salt Lake City, Utah. That's salt. And that's a raven. I believe that's a raven. A much smaller version of Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been there. It's a pretty nice mountain range they got out there. So it was interesting listening to the radio. They do listen to the music the same way us liberals do, but they talk different than us liberals. They seem to be dismissive of everything. Oh, that's not really happening. That didn't really happen. Oh, Indian residential school, that wasn't that bad. There was good things that happened there. There's even people who said that there was good things happening there. Well, I can pretty well tell you right now through the Stockholm Syndrome, you can look that up. The Stockholm Syndrome in psychology or sociology, it's just a story. It's not really scientifically validated. But it's a pretty good story. It's a pretty good way to explain what's going on in the mind of the tortured and tormented. So you always hear about these police arresting people and then tormenting them by interviewing them for hours and hours without giving them proper water and food and rest and breaks. They just keep interviewing and talking until they just can't take it no more, and they just break down and they confess the crimes they didn't even commit. They just want it all to end. They want to get some sleep. They want to eat something. They're hungry. They're experiencing deprivations. So that's a coercive interview. It's full of torture and torment. Well, it's not that bad though, eh? It's only you're only being deprived of water and a break, and but apparently people break down. They confess to crimes they've never even committed, and they do time. They've learned that through that kind of torture that they may as well not say anything. That's not going to make a difference in the world anyway. So that's called learned helplessness in psychology too. So you combine learned helplessness with that Stockholm syndrome, and someone will say and do anything to just to make the pain stop, the suffering, the mental anguish. Mental anguish, by the way, is psychological torture, if you look up the definition of that. And so any person who's gone through Indian residential school, witnessing the abuse of fellow students, family members, cousins, brothers and sisters, they learn quite quickly that if they don't do anything or say anything that is contrary to the priests and nuns, the priests and nuns will focus in on the ones who are resisting. And as long as the priests and nuns are focused in on other people, they're not focused in on them. So they end up having less of a harder time than other students in school. And those ones are survivors. They'll do and say anything to survive. They'll say, "Oh, my experience wasn't that bad. I had a good experience. The nuns and priests were fair to me." Well, sure they're going to be fair to you because you're not resisting. You're not you've given up your language, your culture, your identity, your personhood, your dignity to survive. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that you survived. Did you really have a positive experience in an Indian residential school? I doubt it. I think you've got the Stockholm syndrome. I think you've got the learned helplessness. I think you gave up. And you're just saying that. And the last thing you want to do is confront the reality that you did experience horrific things in Indian residential school, though you didn't feel the sting of a whip crossing your back or your face, arms and belly. You know that sound? That crack sound of a whip? That crack is the sound of the tip of the whip creating a vacuum in the air. And when the air closes back in on that vacuum, it creates a snapping sound. That's the sound of air clapping against itself. The only thing that can create that kind of a vacuum is the speed of sound. So when those whips came across your back and you heard those snaps and cracks and pops, that's the sound of a whip going faster than the speed of sound across your back. So that's what you heard. You didn't experience it because you survived. That's what I heard. I didn't go to Indian residential school. I went to public education, which is the same thing. The only difference was that by the 1984s, they stopped giving us the strap. They strapped. I have the dubious honor of being the last child to be strapped in public education at St. John's High School. Yeah, it didn't feel very good. As traumatic. But even worse was the way the teachers would recruit other students and poison their minds and hearts against Aboriginal people. And we were put on the fringes of social groups in high school. There were Aboriginal kids who participated in sports and recreational events. And like those children who went to Indian residential school, the survivors, those ones conformed. In my experience, they conformed into what we know as the white race. And again, you can read about all of that in Howard Palmer's book, but there's other books you can read. The Vertical Mosaic, you might want to check that one out. You're going to need some prerequisite courses in sociology, intro to sociology, intro to psychology, intro to Canadian history, all of that stuff. But you'll gain an understanding of what I'm talking about here. So that's how things get explained away by the conservatives. It didn't really happen. We've got witnesses. There's witnesses that say that they had a good experience. No, they didn't. War Chief out.